Hello and welcome to Teach Online TV. My name is Tyler Basu and I am here with Lizzie Lasater, who is a yoga instructor who does live workshops, online courses now, and she even designs necklaces as well, which is pretty cool. So a yoga instructor slash entrepreneur on the call today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm excited to learn more about your journey.
Well, it's lovely to be here with you, Tyler.
Now, I know I gave away a little bit of the highlights there, but can you just give us, take a few minutes to tell us about your background, how you got into teaching yoga, first of all, and then how you got into creating online courses?
So I like to say that yoga is the family business because my mom has been teaching yoga for 45 years. And she was part of that early wave of American hippies, she doesn't like that word, who went to India in the 70s and 80s, and she studied with a teacher called Mr. Iyengar, who recently passed, and he was one of the great masters of the 20th century. And she had the good fortune of finding him directly, studying with him, fell in love with yoga, became a physical therapist, and, in her long career ended up writing. She's just publishing her 9th book on yoga. She founded Yoga Journal magazine, just very embedded in the American yoga scene. So I grew up with that. I grew up at yoga retreat centers in the summers around the world. And back when before yoga was luxury, that's what I like to say, when it was still rustic. And then I started practicing and started teaching in my early 20s. And then really wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue it full time, and fell in love with design. I got a master's in design, and that's where I met my husband and ended up moving to Europe. Came back to teaching yoga partially because I felt like I felt like I had a lot of time to learn everything from my mom. Mm-hmm. And then her mom passed at 94, which is normal, but it sort of shook me. And I thought, I've got to learn more from mom. This is part of my heritage. I want to learn everything she knows about yoga. And so I started studying with her again more intensely. And it just really evolved, moving online and using my design skills from design school and combining it with really this teaching and this work. It's been a pretty seamless process.
Okay. Very interesting. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you is because, yoga is, among other things, traditionally offline. And of course, the technology has only recently developed where we can move certain trainings online, but yoga is thought of as one of those things that you should be doing in person. So I'd like to hear how you approached moving, this kind of subject or this kind of topic online, and what prompted you to create some online training in the first place?
So it's a really great question. I think one of the misconceptions we have is, I love this Texas expression. My grandparents are from Texas. Yoga has become a mile wide and an inch deep. So in our culture, we all sort of think we know what yoga is. And we think of yoga as going to a room, a yoga studio, and there's 20 or 30 people and you're doing this flow together. Maybe there's music and it feels great afterward. But that's actually a relatively new incarnation of yoga. And traditionally, if we look even 100 years ago, which isn't that long, or even 60, 80 years ago, yoga was taught one-on-one. So the idea, Mr. Iyengar, for example, was one of the revolutionary teachers who started teaching group classes. And then he let women come to classes. Like, that's sort of very new, the idea that women should be doing this physical practice. So now I see moving online as a complete continuation of this evolution. So it started from, it's a huge luxury to have the time, the teacher's time and your time to be able to go sort of daily or weekly and have a personal connection. And that's always what I would preference. I feel as though I've had this lucky experience of, I have that access to my mom, and she has thousands of students around the world. And so I really wanted to figure out how we could share that. Mm-hmm. And then quite selfishly, I was emboldened to try to move the work online because my mother doesn't want to travel so much anymore. No one wants to travel. Traveling is getting worse, flying everywhere, and security lines and all of it. And I have a certain consciousness about the planet. It feels odd to get on an airplane, and burn all of this jet fuel to go talk to people about inner peace. So all of that combined, it just made a lot of sense to get online. And then what we really focus on, which is, I think, a niche on our platform, Lasater.yoga, is that we are interested in training yoga teachers. So there is a lot of content and a lot of people are doing it really well on much more kind of purpose-built, not Thinkific type platforms, where they're doing sort of pay $20 a month and get unlimited yoga flow classes. And there's a lot of people doing that. And I saw that and thought, that's not really the direction I wanted to go. We're talking about yoga. There's a lot of meta yoga content, which we're producing. It's not necessarily like doing poses together via the computer, but we're talking about issues like touch. When, as a teacher, how do you think conceptually about touching your student? How do you enter that space? What are the kind of ethical parameters? What are the boundary issues? What do you need to look for? So that all of that can be taught really well online. So, that's kind of our slant on it. And it's because of course, that I'm doing it with my mom and that she has that experience. Or anatomy training. Most yoga teachers have a horrific lack of knowledge of really anatomy, physiology. So we think that content is perfect for online.
Okay, no, that definitely makes sense. And in terms of, choosing which content to include in your course and, what kind of training to create, could you just walk us through that process of actually creating that first course? So
one of the things, or actually the thing I learned in design school, I can save you all thousands of dollars of a design education in 3 years of your life, is the process of going from 0 to 1. So really having an idea and then turning it into first a prototype and then many prototypes and then finally something that you're willing to share with people. And that process is how I started with the digital courses. Before we even found Thinkific, I had the idea of start before you're ready. Just make something and test your concept. I deeply believe that there's a lot of time wasted. People who don't have a lot of design experience think that designing something is like sitting around and thinking of the perfect thing, and then you make the perfect final thing. But in my experience, and what I learned trial by fire in design school, is designing something is like thinking of it, making it as quickly as possible out of popsicle sticks, and then saying, eventually, this is going to be a driverless car. It's iteration. So the very first course I pitched basically to my mom is I said, look, let me produce a course. We'll do it 100% audio content because that's much, frankly, cheaper than video and fewer moving parts. You don't have to have an editing team and lighting and sound. So I said, okay, we'll go into an audio studio and we'll do an 8-part course where I'll interview you and we'll just be talking about concepts of yoga off the mat. So how do I, in yoga teaching, there's talk about empathy or compassion. So then I'm going to interview you about that. And that'll be a 30-minute thing, and we'll make 8 of them, and we'll put it together and we'll sell it. So I was doing that in the very beginning. The first 50 customers, I just gave them the files. I just basically sent them a Dropbox link.
Okay.
You gave me your money and okay, here you can, wow, thank you. Here, and those 50 customers covered our production, it was sort of a no-brainer. It was in the bag. So then I was ready to start spending more money, looking for a more professional platform like Thinkific. I looked at a bunch of platforms, and it's actually, I was thinking about it because I just got your Black Friday promos. I think that's when I signed up last year.
Was it Black Friday?
Yeah, and there was a Black Friday deal, and I had been looking at different platforms, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to choose Thinkific. So it's only been a year that we've been, I would say it was probably maybe 6 months before that I was doing that first course, very kind of on the fly, giving people files, just like, thank you. Even selling the very first courses I sold after a workshop, kind of in person. You could pay cash, you could like write me a check. I was just like so delighted by the idea and I think other creators will maybe identify with this. There's something so fantastic about having an idea and birthing it into the world and then having people give you their money for it, which is like, money is just people's energy. They're just saying like, this has value. This thing which you did alone in the dark that no one knew about. Now, when I hear about it, I'm saying yes. Like, I find that to be the most exciting and thrilling part. Every time I get an email from Thinkific that someone bought a course or enrolled in a course, it's them saying yes. And that's so thrilling, I think.
Yeah, I love your approach because what you did was you validated the fact that this was worth pursuing, and you didn't try to create the perfect course from day one and invest so much time and energy and resources and video production, which we know is quite a bit of work, into creating a massive comprehensive product the first time. You created like
a baby product.
Yeah, like a baby product. Lean startup type of mentality, like the minimum viable product. You got it out there. You proved that people are willing to pay you for this training, and then you use those resources to improve it. So can you walk us through how the course has evolved since then? Does it have more than just audio now, and what's included in it now?
So our very first course was called the Living Your Yoga audio course, and it was a companion to a book that Mom had already written. So I just picked 8 chapters from the book and then read the chapters and asked her questions. Then the second course we did was called Teaching Yoga, and I picked these meta topics about like touch, language, these kind of topics about teaching yoga. That would really, because in yoga there's all these schools and styles, and it's a little fractured. So I wanted to definitely, for the second course, create content that would speak to people, to a broader audience, because I knew it's already narrow to say yoga teachers. So then I wanted to say, okay, we're going to pick topics that no matter what style, it'll be interesting to you. And in that course we did half video, half audio. So I basically said like, all right, I think I can confidently say, let's do 1 day of a video shoot. Like, I can get that organized, and then we'll do a couple days in the audio. And then, the way it worked out, it ended up being 50% video, 50% audio. And then what we're doing now is I had an idea to do a subscription model, which we can talk about a little bit more. It has its own surprising hiccups. But so now we also do a once a month, but we run it through Thinkific. It's a once a month live phone call with my mom that I moderate. And it's basically like monthly live mentorship for yoga teachers. There's a topic each month and you can call in and ask questions. So in this, we have teachers from all over the world and in places that are really remote, and they're teaching at a little studio and they have 10 students. And then this kind of gives them a monthly injection of teaching or concepts, ideas for them to bring to their students. And then the last course that we're pre-selling right now, it's going to launch on January 1st, is it's called the Shavasana Intensive, and it's that pose you do at the very end of yoga class. I don't know if you've done it, Tyler, where you lie down on the floor.
I did a Bikram yoga class, but it was almost 10 years ago, so I forgot what the last pose would have been. But
it's the last pose no matter what school. You lie down on the floor, you play dead. It's like corpse pose. And so then we're doing a course that's all about that pose. And so it's 21 days, and that's going to launch on January 1st. And that's the first time I'm going to try to use drip content. So we've already sold a bunch of enrollments, and then we're selling more this month. And the idea is like, every day you get another little idea about this single pose and this single idea of relaxation.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, I can definitely see, the evolution of the training and the different features and ways that you're presenting the content to your students. At what point in the journey did you go from, sending people a link to audio files in Dropbox to deciding to set up a whole online school. And when you chose to use Thinkific, what was it specifically about Thinkific that made it the right choice for you at that time?
So I remember looking at 2 or 3 different platforms. And for me, I was really it's like learning by doing. I didn't even know everything that I was going to love about Thinkific because I've been so happy with you guys. But I think one of the things I remember looking at was I wanted to be able to have affiliates, and I wanted that to be sort of very integrated, the affiliate tracking. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted it to be white label. And then I was just sort of looking at, pricing, the monthly pricing, and trying to figure out, and I also really wanted to be able to, I wanted to have a fixed monthly cost, not a percentage. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to give away to the hosting platform a % of every sale.
Right. Okay. So the pricing model made sense for you.
And then one of the things I didn't know so much is that I think your customer service is really great. I love that you can write an email and a real person writes you back. That's a tremendous experience.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. What would you say has been your biggest challenge as an online course creator? And if somebody else is facing that same challenge, how would you help them to overcome that? So
the biggest challenge for me is just understanding the magnitude of the importance of marketing. From the design perspective, I did for about 2 years before I did this. Right when I got married, I moved to Europe, and then I did a 3D printed jewelry line. And as a designer, I thought, I didn't even think about it. I just thought if I design a bunch of beautiful stuff, great, I'll have a business.
Yeah. Won't people find it on their own?
And that's not, because that's really not taught in design school. But, and I really, it was almost like a dark spot in my brain that I didn't even realize there was a sales and marketing. I thought that was sort of beneath me or trashy to try to tell people about your work. And so that has been a process of evolution of learning. And then that kind of, trial run, trying to do that as a business, and then realizing actually this is a hobby. This isn't a business, this jewelry stuff. And so as I transitioned into doing these courses, I realized if I want to do this and take it seriously, I need to figure out how I'm going to show it to people. So that was the biggest challenge of getting over that hump of sort of swallowing the fact that I was going to need to focus on. And now I consider actually that's 50% of my job. I think 50% of my job is marketing. And that, I think, as a creator is hard to kind of accept, can be hard to accept in the beginning. You think I'm just making something. But it doesn't matter, and I'll say, for example, I just had a meeting. We're shooting a big anatomy course next year. It'll be a 4-day video shoot. It'll be the biggest thing that we've done thus far. And I was meeting with a video production person who's, bidding for the job. And she told me that she thinks if I have 4 days to film the content, I should spend 1 day on the promo video. Just she basically said that's the most important 3 minutes of content you're going to make. It doesn't matter if you're going to make, 5 hours of content of other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's getting that into your mind, because I don't know. I thought, coming from the academic side, when you study at university and this, there can be a kind of conceptual snobbery. It's beneath me to be interested in marketing. So that was the biggest, continues to be the biggest learning process for me.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point that you bring up. And I think pretty much any content creator in general has to figure that out at some point. I know I've spoken to a lot of authors who spent, so much time writing their book. And then after the book was done,
they're like, okay,
marketing was an afterthought. And then they're like, shoot, if I don't have a marketing plan, this book is going to end up in the hands of my friends and my family, and then it ends there.
Exactly, which is what happened with my jewelry. And right. I think though, to be optimistic about it, I think creators, like one of the things I've also learned is it's not as hard as you make it out to be, or like the mountain is not as tall as we think. So I think course creators have a wonderful positioning to be able to do great marketing because we speak exactly the language. Like because I am also my customer, like I know I am a yoga teacher, I know, so the languaging, it's all extremely natural. I'm not thinking of writing like marketing copy. I'm just writing some people an email for our list. Just for example, today I'm sending out an email called our new moon email. And in yoga, there's a lot of talk about the moon because it also affects for women. Like if you have your period, you know, with the moon, you're not supposed to do certain poses. Like the moon is very deeply integrated into our work. And so we have a once a month email called the new moon mail. Mm-hmm. And the new moon is also considered this time for new beginnings and recommitting. And so I sort of say like, this is a time to recommit to learning and recommit to your yoga practice. And so, you know, here's a special deal you might like for this month, blah, 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 new moon mail. I don't think maybe you, Tyler, who's taken one yoga class, would sort of come up with that idea for the new moon mail because, right. So I think that creators sort of need to, or what I've been enjoying doing and cultivating more of is like tapping into my creative powers and abilities and ideas and also turning them towards marketing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have been like 2 or 3 things that have worked for you in terms of marketing? Are there things that you do regularly or that you do when you're getting ready to launch a course or share a course with your audience? What are the things that have worked to help attract those students and get them enrolled in the courses?
So we have the advantage of already having kind of a brand that in marketing terms, you would say like my mom already has students and had a list. So we had like a leg up on that. So using the list, growing the list, our email list, that has been huge. I think another big thing has been really simple, but Facebook has been good for us. And Facebook ads, they like when I put money on Facebook ads, I sell more than I put on the ad. So, I mean, you know, like
you make the money back.
Yeah. I don't, you know, I'm not super scientific about it. And so Facebook has been good. You know, the other thing I'm doing with this anatomy course, which is not even available for pre-sale yet, I have like a ethical rule for myself that I don't like to put something for pre-sale until I've like filmed the content. Okay. I don't know why. I could put it for pre-sale now, but it's like once after that's the moment. So while I'm editing, then I'll put something up for pre-sale because I feel like, okay, it's safe. Like I have it.
Yeah. I mean, just in case something happens.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So, but anyway, so this course that we'll probably be launching a year from now, but what I've already started doing is just put up like, it's called experientialanatomy.yoga. It's just like a landing page to capture email. And what we've been doing is putting up YouTube videos about twice a month, super informal, this style, just video interview style, where I talk to one of the co-teachers. We're bringing in another teacher with my mom, and this woman, Mary Richards, I sit there and ask her a yoga anatomy question. Like, okay, dog pose, what's happening with your shoulders anatomically in dog pose? And then she talks about it for 10 minutes. I put it up on YouTube. And at the beginning and the end of that video, I say, you know, go to this website, experientialanatomy.yoga, and sign up and you'll stay in the loop for this course that's coming. Okay. So I think in the business, that's kind of like giving away free content, or I don't know what it's called, what I'm doing. No, that's a great example of content marketing. You're putting out some free content that's helpful for your target audience, but you're giving them that next step to join a newsletter, right, in anticipation of a course that's coming up. That's a great approach. And so that's the first time I'm doing something like that, making a dedicated list and putting out these YouTube videos. And they take time, you know, to do, but the thing I'll say is like, we have gotten tremendous feedback about them. People, and like in the real world, my mom's not even doing them. She travels around and teaches 1 or 2 workshops a month around the country. And like people come up to her and say like, I love the anatomy videos, you know? And she's like, okay. So, I mean, that has been really positive feedback, and the list is growing and people watch the videos. I mean, it's a niche market, you know, we're never going to get to 100,000 views, but I think, the other thing, in a way, exactly as I was saying before, a little bit of a proof of concept. Like it just feeds you energetically to say, okay, yeah, I'm putting all this thought and effort and investing money in filming the actual course. And it feels good that I've got like this growing number of people who are all saying like, yes, yes, yes. You know, and I mean, I haven't even priced the course, you know, it's going to be expensive, and I don't expect that everyone who joins that list is going to buy the course, but it's been for me a really good experience. And like, I mean, technology is so magic now. That costs me nothing to do. It costs me a little bit of time. We bulk film them, you know, so like once a month I film for an hour and a half, and then I have, you know, another 2 hours of editing. It's like,
awesome. I have a quick question about Facebook ads.
okay.
And then I've got, and then we'll wrap up with some advice for other course creators. But when you do run those Facebook ads, what are you running ads for? Or is it to some of your content? Is it to build a newsletter? Is it straight to a course sales page, for example? Or
so my banker Texas uncle said something once to me, or, you know, it was a group of people were all talking at Thanksgiving about entrepreneurship or, you know, business, blah, blah, blah. And one of my cousins was talking about a business idea, and my uncle just said, "Where's the cash register?" And what it was, it's just this salty kind of Texas, I have this voice in my head, like, where's the cash register? And what I took that to mean is, in terms of Facebook ads, I don't put ads for anything where there isn't a cash register. Like, okay. I don't personally put ads to grow my list, or put money on an ad for these YouTube videos, or all of that. I really think I want to be organic. Okay. If I have a course, you know, like I'll put an ad and say like, this course is launching in 1 month and the price is going up. Like, here's the link to buy. Unless I have a link to buy, that's kind of my homegrown theory. Okay.
But those ads are to your audience then? Like who already...
Who do I pick? No, I pick, you know, you can design your audience. So I just guess what I think, you know, who I think, the age and the gender and the location.
Demographics and the interests and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So that's what I do. I haven't found, I don't know why, but I haven't found it as successful to just target people who've already liked our page. Okay. I don't understand why. It seems like those would be the best people. Yeah. But in my unscientific experience, I have it better when I do a broader audience.
Okay. Interesting. So I've just got 2 more questions for you, and then we'll wrap up. In terms of like equipment, you know, tools, software, cameras, mics, any of that kind of stuff, what do you typically use now when you create a course?
So when we do audio, I differentiate between paid and unpaid. So unpaid audio would be sort of these YouTube things. I just use my computer. I don't have any fancy equipment. I'm considering buying a mic, but now, you know, after I've already been doing it as a full-time job for like a year. So I'm pretty low on the investing in equipment scale. I think it's a huge trap to think like, wait, I have to research and invest and buy all this stuff before I do anything. So you can already do a lot of things. I also believe, kind of from a millennial perspective, like people will watch awful content, meaning like from an iPhone. I mean, look at these, it's a terrible reference, but look at these kind of police shooting videos. Like the quality of this content is really poor. It's someone's phone, they're shaky, the audio is terrible, but millions of people watch them because they're interested in seeing what's being shown. Right. So I believe if I have something to say, if it's free content, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, within reason, I try to like make a nice background or something. Mm-hmm. But then for paid content, I believe in going to, you know, professional. So we've done all our audio content in like a professional recording studio for musicians, and we hire there's an engineer who sits there and does the levels. And I have found, however, that for what we're doing, because it's just talking content, I do the editing myself. Like my engineer does the sound, but then I just have a program called Audacity, which is free, and I do the cutting and pasting myself. Right. Okay. Because I know what I want it to be, and it's pretty easy. Like if you can use I don't know, if you can use Microsoft Word, you can use Audacity. It's like literally cut and paste.
Yeah. No, perfect. No, I'm glad that, that's the case, because I think a lot of people get stumped on that. They think, oh, I don't have the HD camera. I don't have the whole lighting studio. And I mean, you've created courses with just a computer. And that's really all it takes. Technology has come so far, so we're quite fortunate that way. Last question for you. For those who are considering teaching online, they have an area of expertise, maybe they have an offline business, or they work one-on-one with clients, and they're considering making that transition into offering some online training, but they haven't taken that first step. They're just on the fence a little bit. If we could help to inspire them to do this, and just, give them some words of encouragement to create their first online course. So my question for you is, what kind of an impact has it made on your life and on your business by making that decision to create some online training to serve your audience and to serve your customers?
I mean, it's been huge. It's completely opened up a new way of thinking about not just my business, but my career, but my lifestyle. Being able to work from everywhere, being able to earn money when I'm not working. I think that is I think that's the future. And I think that has been a tremendous way of freeing myself up to kind of structure my days the way that I want them, and not be also with all this traveling I do, because I teach in-person workshops, and there's a lot of traveling and unglamorous kind of downtime on either side where you're jet lagged or you're acclimatizing. And I think it's really fantastic to be able to say it's a Tuesday, like a normal person should feel like I need to go to the office or do work, but I worked all weekend teaching a workshop, so I'm going to take a down day and go for a hike, and then do 1 hour of, put a Facebook ad, do a couple customer service emails, and still feel as though the momentum of my work is moving forward. Mm-hmm. So that's what Thinkific online teaching has allowed us to do, is kind of decouple the one-to-one nature of teaching workshops in person. Like I have to be here at the same time the student is there. I need a yoga studio. I need all these components. It's allowed my work to become much more, what's the word for this motion? Expansive and contractive.
And scalable, I think.
Scalable
is
the idea, yeah.
That's excellent. Well, Lizzie, thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey with us and some advice and some insights for other course creators. I really appreciate it. And the best place that we can send people to learn more about you, is that your home base online?
Yeah, you can find me at LizzieLasater.com. And if you want to join my list, you can go to livingwiththebuddha.com. I do an Instagram. I do the same photo every day somewhere else in the world where I am. And I send out an email twice a month to try to encourage us all to find a little bit more silence. And then our Thinkific site is lasater.yoga. .yoga is a new.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll make sure we link to your website below the video and in the show notes.
Yeah, and really, I can just say, spend no money, but get out there for course creators. Like, just jump, start before you're ready. You're not risking anything except for your own time. And I think it's a great way to try to find your voice.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks.